Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution? A madhouse?
You just found the marble in the oatmeal. You're a lucky, lucky, lucky little boy. Do you know why? You get to drink from the fire hose! Okay, you ready? Open wide! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Hey, you want to see crazy?
You really are crazy.
I don't get it, Doc. I mean, how can all this be happening? It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
Now you want to get nuts? Shut up, you freak! Come on! I said shut up! It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
Hello and welcome to Movie Madhouse, a podcast about films lost to the annals of time. I'm Travis Fishburne.
And I am Alex Brunel.
And this week we will be covering the 1991 classic Suburban Commando.
Yep, that's what I did. I did this to
Lloyd
us.
And Hollywood Hulkster.
Yeah, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Or no, he was just Hollywood Hogan for a time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I don't know when that would have been, if that would have been now or not.
Yeah, I don't know the history of Mr. Hogan, whatever his first name may be at the time. Do we have any pre-show stuff this week? We don't have any news or anything to discuss, do we? I mean, just...
No, I don't think so.
You know, I oppose federal stormtroopers. I'll say that at the top of the show. But, you know, I don't think we have any relevant entertainment news going on. Aside from, like, Zack Snyder just being, like, a jerk bag. Out loud
I didn't
in
even
public.
see anything. That I've been kind of out of the loop for the past week, so I don't know what Zack Snyder's been up to.
If you'll permit me,
He's starting stuff with Joss.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's not like it's like, okay, like I get that, I understand the horrible situation that he was put in that precluded him from finishing Justice League the way he wanted to finish Justice League, right? And I get it. I don't understand the bile he seems to have for like this finished version of the movie. It's like someone finished the thing you started so that anyone could see it, so that it could be released, because it's not like the Zack Snyder DC universe. It's like a company's property that you've been hired to do, and it's a product that needs to be finished. This isn't high art. This isn't even high pop art. It's just like more flashy superhero stuff. So
I don't know, but everything leading up to that would make you think it was Zack Snyder's universe.
That's very true. It's very true. So apparently over the weekend there was Justice Con, a fan convention devoted to Justice League, because those people exist. Which, if you're one of those people, more power to you, as long as you're not, like, you know, anti-human in whatever way. But I think you're wrong. So someone asked him if it would include, because HBO's not giving him the money to do any reshoots. So any footage he uses has to be existing footage or special effects. So the question came up, will he be using anything from the theatrical cut of the film? And he said, quote, and I won't use the expletives, but I would destroy the movie, I would set it on fire before I use a single frame that I did not photograph. That is an effing hard fact. I would literally blow that thing up if I thought for a second anything you see in this movie that reminds you of the theatrical release, which again, famously, I literally have never seen, would be because that was a thing that I had done, was being borrowed for whatever, that Frankenstein's monster version that you got in the theater. Like, come on, dude.
Are you sure that's not George Lucas talking about the holiday special?
But it's not like control was wrestled away from him. It's not like it's just such a jerkbag stance to take. But Slash Film doesn't do a good job of pointing out who wrote this article, because I really agree with them. Ben Pearson. Then again, the entire project seems like an exercise in pride and ego, so I guess this makes sense.
It's so strange that there was that much. I mean, I guess there would have been that much footage shot, but they're claiming it's going to be 3+ hours long and still not use any of the Joss Whedon footage.
I know. I know, and he like teased the black suit Superman that was like removed from the film that he claimed he shot, and it was like, from all indications, just a recolored version of like red, yellow, and blue suit. It's footage from the movie, just like different coloring in the computer graphics. So like, I don't know, man. It's Zack Snyder's dumb. That's all.
This whole thing is weird.
It's very weird
because once it comes out, I know this doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I guess it does matter to a lot of people, but then what's canon? You know?
Oh,
like,
damn.
I think of like this kind of stuff. Like, this could never happen with like Star Wars, because then you like completely blow up the canon that way.
I had the same question years ago with there was an Exorcist movie that did this. It was like, is it The Exorcist Dominion and Exorcist the Beginning were the two titles maybe, and like one was the Paul Schrader version and one was, I want to say it was Schumacher, but I don't think it was Schumacher, like another director. But like, one version came out in theaters, it failed miserably, and then they allowed the other version to come out on DVD, and they use like a lot of the same footage but are like drastically different movies. And it's like, okay, so which one is an Exorcist movie? Like, just both exist? It's weird.
Yeah, because the people are talking like, if this is successful enough, it can reboot and redirect the DCEU into a better direction. And I'm like, so if that happens and they count this one as canon, like what happens to the original theatrical Joss Whedon version? Is that just counted as like some alternate timeline that didn't happen? Yeah,
that's the 1977 release of Star Wars. That's what that movie is. That's Han shot first. That's what that movie is.
It's the multiverse.
It's stupid. That's what it is. It's freaking stupid because the movies are stupid. And I like stupid movies. These movies are just very bad. Anyway, we can move on, because if you let me just like rant about DC movies for 90 minutes, I absolutely will, and we've already been talking for 10. So,
okay. Well, that's your Snyder Cut news for the week.
The Alex Brunel slant version.
And as bad as most of the DC movies are, I think Shazam was pretty good.
Oh, I agree. I like Shazam.
The newer ones. And that Wonder Woman 84, I just rewatched the trailer the other day, and it looks really good.
I'll be interested to see Wonder Woman 84. I did like Shazam a fair bit. I liked Aquaman, actually, because of it truly started embracing the absurdity of the whole movie. Of just the concept. Like, I don't know, it embraced absurdity in a way that I enjoyed. And like, even if you didn't like that movie, you could just pay attention to like people's weird floating hair underwater, because the floating hair effect was very good.
Did they? I've not seen it yet. Did they use bubbles to talk to each other like they did in Justice League?
I don't. Do they? I don't
think
there's a scene.
Justice League,
I don't know if there's a scene
underwater. They're like, they put big bubbles on themselves to talk.
Right, but that's because there's people that can't breathe underwater under the water in Justice League, right? Because like in Aquaman, we're mostly dealing with Atlanteans who can all breathe underwater.
Okay.
I think there's a crab king. There's things evocative of like crab people from South Park, except it's like in a real way. It's like great. And Birds of Prey is like gaudy and insane and kind of fun. I don't think it's great, but it's like, it's gaudy and insane and kind of fun. So Suburban Commando, which is gaudy and also gaudy and insane and like kind of fun. So the synopsis of this movie: an interstellar hero from a distant world visits Earth and tries to fit in with a mundane yet kind suburban family. Yep. I
think he succeeds.
Yeah, he does. He actually integrates better than you would maybe think that the movie would set him up as being able to at the beginning.
So much so that they the family put that picture of him eating dinner with them up on the where was
yeah, it was like it was on the fridge, or it was in like the den on like a hutch or something. It was like prominently displayed in the house. I was trying to find some background info on this movie. The only thing I came up with was like these two sentences from the Wikipedia entry, which is that the film was originally titled Urban Commando and was intended for Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then they opted to make twins instead. So New Line bought the script to Urban Commando and reworked it as a follow-up to a movie that they had already made with Hulk Hogan called No Holds Barred, which I have not seen, which I guess was his first like foray into Hollywood.
Yeah, I was looking at his IMDb to see like when his first like starring role was, and that was
Gotcha. And he's an executive producer on this movie, so presumably the Hulkster had some creative input on this movie. Yeah, it's funnish. Did you like it? Did you have a fun time?
Yeah, I thought it was very enjoyable.
Yeah,
it was,
it's like it's stupid in a lot of the same ways that a lot of the movies we watch are stupid, but it's made far more competently.
Yeah, it's very very schlocky, and
yeah, in a knowing way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very similarly to Pet Shop, I thought, but in a different way. The sets inside, like the interior sets, look terrible.
You know, I actually agree with that. There's a lot kind of that I felt was very similar. This has a weirdly similar vibe to Pet Shop, honestly, in a way that I was not anticipating. But that's great. That's weird. It's a weird double feature.
Yeah, like the sets look like Hulk was about to just knock him over at any moment.
Yeah, they did. And there's a montage of walking down a street and a block of stores that there's kind of a couple scenes in Pet Shop, and the pursuit by aliens is, I don't know, there's similar elements. It's this weird melange of just kind of pop culture-y nonsense, pop culture sci-fi nonsense from the early 90s. So I looked up the crew and stuff, and I found a few interesting connections, but nothing that made me go, oh, that's enlightening. But I'll share what I found. It was directed by a guy named Burt Kennedy, who was born in 1922. Mostly, and he passed away a number of years ago now. He was mostly a director of Western films, this being his second to last film, before his final film being Comanche in 2000. He directed a lot of features in the 1970s. None of the titles I know, but I do want to just say the title of Dirty Dingus McGee, because that's a real movie.
That one.
And he directed a lot of TV through the 80s, leading him to this film. And even prior to directing Westerns in the 70s, he wrote a lot of Westerns. So that was just kind of his genre. It's interesting that this movie is not at all a Western. Does not really feel like a Western.
It has
some elements.
Some Western tropes, like this hired hand who is forced to live with the people who have a simpler life, and his old ways come after him. It's very much like Shane in that regard.
That's a good point.
It's kind of Western tropey in that.
No, you're right. I was wrong. I didn't think about that enough, and you are correct. Thank you for that.
But on the surface, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a Western, but you're right. If you actually think about the thing, the tropes and the things that happen in the movie, yeah, that is a lot of Western tropes. Written by Frank A. Capello, this movie is his first feature writing credit. Since then, he's written and or directed a good handful or two handfuls of titles, mostly short films. One of the only ones that popped out to me was 2007's He Was a Quiet Man, starring Christian Slater, which was this, I think I watched it once. I think I rented it from Video Spectrum back in college. I just remember being a quiet, interesting little, character thriller-y thing. IMDb has him currently attached to Constantine 2, so see if that turns out to be
true. About Constantine 2 today, yeah, they're trying to kickstart that with Keanu, with the Keanu-sans going on.
Yeah,
it's the time.
Long live the Keanu-sans. I'm so here for it. I've watched I will say, just in Alex Brunel news, when the new trailer for Bill and Ted Face the Music came out last week, I was in tears at the end of it. I cannot wait for this movie. The first trailer I liked, but concerned me a little bit, and then the second trailer I'm like, okay, no, I think they figured this out. This is going to be great.
Yeah, and you're not going to have to wait long to see it now.
No, and I'm hoping that there's like one drive-in in the greater LA area. I'm hoping they play it because I would absolutely go to the drive-in to see Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of watching the Comic-Con panel before we got on this podcast today. Anyway, actually, let's do a review podcast of Bill and Ted Face the Music when that comes out. Let's do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, good. Good. Another chance for me to talk at the internet about Bill and Ted. That makes me happy. I'll wear some apparel. Anyway.
It'll probably be our most watched show because it'll be the most...
the only topical show we've ever done. In movie Madhouse.
Yes.
The TV review shows are extremely topical. So, okay, moving on. Produced this movie, Suburban Commando again now. We're talking about Suburban Commando. It was produced by a guy named Howard Gottfried. This film was the last of 8 titles he produced in his life before his death in 2017. So he had a nice long retirement, which I think is something to envy. He was mainly known for producing Network and Altered States. So I just love that this producer of 8 credits, 2 of them are hugely significant movies. Network is just a hugely significant movie just in terms of like cinema history. I think Altered States is just a fantastic classic thing. And then also Suburban Commando. Why not go out on Suburban Commando? That's amusing to me. The composer of the film was David Michael Frank, a long resume, regularly working composer. Titles that jumped out at me most were like, they're not like amazing titles, but these titles jumped out at me. Poison Ivy, William Shatner's Tech War, not the series, but the original 4 films, the original 4 TV movies that was like the quote-unquote season 1 of Tech War. Problem Child 3, which is... And I don't know
that I've even seen the 3rd one.
I have. It has a different kid because the kid aged out of the role.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm pretty positive Gilbert Gottfried is still in that because Gilbert Gottfried.
Of course.
And he also was the composer on the animated series The Oblongs from the early 2000s.
Oh, I remember that.
Which also had a They Might Be Giants theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also...
That was a messed up show.
It was. I love that show. That was so good.
Will Ferrell was the voice, right?
He was the dad, yeah. And who was... Pamela Adlon played Milo, like the main character, little boy. There were some other notable voice actors in that show too, and I see around LA occasionally like murals by Angus Oblong. Like you can recognize the style immediately. It's great. But David Michael Frank also scored or worked on the music in a 1990 home video I grew up with called Mother Goose Rock and Rhyme, which was like these kind of like garish, very much late 80s, early 90s, like it was children's entertainment, and like Shelley Duvall was in it, Cyndi Lauper was in it, like a lot of interesting people were in this like 90-minute like Mother Goose video that was like all songs and stuff. Moving on, Bernd Heinel was a cinematographer, a German-born DP who began working in the U.S. not long before this movie. A lot of titles I don't know. The one title I know, which is a movie I haven't actually seen yet but have been aware of for years, is a movie called The Nut House, N-U-T-T, directed by Adam Rifkin and Scott Spiegel. Adam Rifkin is the guy who made The Chase and Detroit Rock City, and The Dark Backward, which is a very weird little movie with Judd Nelson and Bill Paxton that's really great. And Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton's in that movie and is hilarious. And Scott Spiegel was one of Sam Raimi's closest co-conspirators in the Michigan days, in the early days. Scott Spiegel was an integral part of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and all of that beautiful stuff. We have a couple production designers, Ivo Cristiante, who was a production designer on Tremors, Tremors 2, Child's Play 2, and Doppelganger, amongst other things, and C.J. Strawn, who was a production designer on My Chauffeur, The Hidden, which I don't know if you've ever seen The Hidden, Travis, but The Hidden is this 1987 LA shot and set sci-fi mystery movie starring Kyle MacLachlan that's like really, really great. And to anybody who and with a speed metal soundtrack. So to anybody that sounds interesting to, I implore you not to read anything more about the movie. If just that gets you interested, 1987 sci-fi thriller starring Kyle MacLachlan, speed metal soundtrack. If just that gets you interested, watch the movie based on that, because what it says on the back of the box is information that I didn't have when I watched that movie, and I was so happy I didn't, because it was a really cool reveal. And Star Kid, CJ Strawn also worked on.
Yeah.
And
Brazillo.
Yeah. And I noticed an interesting thing. They were the art director on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and then the production designer on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, 5, and 6. So I like seeing that in a person's filmography, that a franchise is able to hold on to like a singular voice throughout a few films. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe the most significant person in this personnel section is Steve Johnson, who did the creature effects in the movie, which there's not much of, but there is a very significant creature from the Blue Lagoon looking creature toward the end that's like really great. And also the
that came out of nowhere. It was
out of nowhere.
And it movie has something like this in it.
Yeah, and it's in it for like 3 minutes, and it looks so cool. And the power suits, or the power suit, like the that Hulkster and Christopher Lloyd wear. That was all created by Steve Johnson, who has a long history and a long resume of makeup and creature effects. Other credits include Predator, various Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Lord of Illusions, Spider-Man 2, The Village, The Fog, American Werewolf in London, Big Trouble in Little China, Return to the Living Dead 3, Brain Scan, Blade 2. Like, great list, great resume.
Wow.
And yeah.
Like any number of those is like American Werewolf in London. And wow.
Yeah. No, it's great. I like to have been in all the rooms that this guy's been in would just like blow my mind. It would be an amazing life to have. And then the movie's cast is actually fairly interesting.
Oh yeah.
So do you want to direct us a little bit to what you learned about the cast, Travis?
Yeah. I mean, this movie, stars Hollywood Hulkster, or Hollywood Hogan, whatever he was called at the time.
He was Hulk Hogan at the time.
Yes.
Playing
Shep Ramsey. And prior to that...
what a character name.
I know. It's very weird.
It's very weird.
Prior to that, he was, like you said, he was in, what was that called?
No Holds Barred.
No Holds Barred. It was his first starring role. And his first film was Rocky III, where he played Thunderlips.
Thunderlips.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He throws Rocky out of a ring. That was in 82.
I've never seen a single Rocky movie, so I did not know that.
Oh, no, they're good. And then, but I've never seen this movie, but I was very familiar with his other, family comedy from the 90s, Mr. Nanny.
I think I have seen Mr. Nanny.
Yeah, Mr. Nanny's good too.
Yeah, I remember enjoying Mr. Nanny. There's a weird like subgenre of like muscle-bound male babysitter movies that spawned from that. Mm-hmm. There's at least one other one. I think there's 2 or 3. Anyway, Hollywood was weird, man. It still is.
And then you got Santa with Muscles, which I've seen.
You have seen?
No, I've never seen.
Okay.
And then we were talking about the different, Snyder versus Whedon cuts. But 2 years prior to this movie, Hogan had appeared in a movie that I'm very familiar with watching all the time as a kid. But he was in a scene of it that I'd never seen until recently. And that's Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
Oh, okay.
Because on the copy of Gremlins 2 that I watched growing up, it's... When the Gremlins take over, I'm always used to the TV going weird and staticky and fuzzy, and they cut to a few different things before they go to John Wayne having a shootout with them and telling him to like get out of this program. But they had altered the theatrical version to fit what would work well on a home video, and the actual theatrical version, which later became available on DVD, is the film reel burning out and them causing chaos up in the projection room, and an usher going into the theater and finding Hollywood Hogan and telling him that there's gremlins in the room, and he like turns around and like shouts at him to like get the movie back going.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
yeah, no, it's great. Gremlins 2 is one of those. Yeah,
but like when I watched the film for the first time on DVD, I was like, whoa, what's this part?
I had that same sensation, actually. Gremlins 2 is one of those sequels where I actually prefer the sequel to the original film.
I agree.
I love Gremlins 2 so much. Just the idea of a sequel being the parody of the movie that it follows is like, it's great.
Yeah, that was the only way Joe Dante was going to make it.
I know, and it's such a quintessential Joe Dante movie. And John Glover in that movie. Oh my God, so good. Yeah, John Glover. Anyway, yes, please continue.
That's on Hogan, and then we got Christopher Lloyd, who plays Charlie, and obviously, we all know him as Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Right.
All he would have had to have done was play Doc Brown, and that's all we needed from him. But no, he, played Judge Doom and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Uncle Fester in the Addams Family. He's, a very prolific actor.
Yeah, very, very big staple of our childhoods, I think. Like, he just popped up a lot in stuff that people that of our generation at our age tended to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he was very much an early fixture in my like, just knowledge of, once I figured out, like, oh, this person can be in multiple things that aren't related to each other. Christopher Lloyd was one of my first instances of realizing, like, that as a kid.
Yeah. And then we got Shelley Duvall, plays Jenny, his wife, and she was in The Shining as Wendy Torrance, and Olive Oil in the Popeye movie.
Love the Popeye movie. I think. Yeah. I haven't seen the Popeye movie in like 20 years.
I have never seen Popeye.
Oh, if you wanted to do Popeye on this podcast, we could do that. The songs in the Popeye movie by Harry Nilsson are like actually really beautiful.
Yeah. No, I hear a lot of people love that movie, and I've never seen it. So
trivia about Popeye: they shot it in Malta, and they built the town. They built the whole town that movie takes place in. That town is still standing. It is now a tourist attraction amusement park.
Whoa.
So if you go on vacation in Malta, be sure to visit the Popeye the movie set.
And an interesting thing, this is just a personal thing about Shelley Duvall. Mm-hmm. I always thought she was related to Robert Duvall. I thought she was like Robert Duvall's daughter. And she is the daughter of Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall, the lawyer, not the actor. Her dad's name is Robert Duvall, but it's not the same Robert Duvall.
And that's the detective work that you come to Movie Madhouse for, people.
Yeah.
To clarify which Robert Duvall, Shelley Duvall is the offspring of.
It's got to be so crazy. Like when people like ask her, like growing up in Hollywood, they must have asked her all the time, "Are you related to Robert Duvall?" And she's got to be like, "Yeah, but not the one you're talking about."
Right. I love Shelley Duvall, and I love her. I wish that, I don't know, her life had turned out more stably, and we could have continued to see her in things. But sometimes life is cruel. Yeah.
We got Michael Faustino, played Mark Wilcox's son. Not too much of note. And then we've got...
is he related to the Faustino? Is it Dave Faustino who is on Married with Children?
Oh,
yes.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Younger brother of actor David Faustino.
Very nice. Oh, well, that's awesome.
Oh, he was also the older brother in Blank Check. I don't remember there being an older brother in Blank Check.
Oh, strap in. And then we got Laura Mooney, who played Teresa, and the most notable thing I found of her is she was the voice of Katie Kaboom and Animaniacs.
Oh, I remember Katie Kaboom. I watch
Yeah.
Animaniacs all the time. That's cool. Nice.
And then we got Larry Miller, who plays Adrian. You know him from either Pretty Woman or the Nutty Professor movies.
Yeah, what do I know him from? I mean, he's in 10 Things I Hate About You very
That's it.
significantly.
Mhm.
Also, I mean, you know his face. He's one of these guys that you've just seen him forever, and you just know who he is. And he's probably my favorite performance in this movie. He's really funny in this movie.
Yeah. And then we got Joanne Deering, who played Margie, and she's really not been in anything. She's been in like 8 things. The only thing of note, she was in Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
I know. I looked up that same thing because I actually really liked her and her character in the movie. And I was like, well, you are only in 8 things? What the hell?
Yeah. She seems so familiar. I'm like,
Yeah,
I've
she
seen her
really
in
seemed
something.
familiar.
Yeah. Then we've got Jack Elam, who played Colonel Dusty. McHowell, who's the guy who's out
The
in
old coot next door.
Yeah.
With the crazy eye.
Yeah, he's like a very prolific Western actor. He's been in a ton of Westerns, and he seemed to have worked quite a bit with Burt Kennedy, the director.
That makes a lot of sense.
He was also in Dirty Dingus McGee.
So that was probably his like, oh, I put this guy in all my movies. That's probably yeah. That's funny. Dirty
that's
Dingus
what it was.
McGee. We should.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say maybe we should cover Dirty Dingus McGee on this podcast, but I probably
Yeah.
don't. I don't know if I actually want to watch Dirty Dingus McGee.
Frank Sinatra plays Dirty Dingus.
It's not. I don't know, man. Sorry.
Then we got William Ball, who played General Suitor, the main bad guy, but he's like been in less than Joanne Deering. He was only in 4 things.
And that's weird. You would think that part there would be like stunt casting for that.
Yeah, you'd really think
Because
so.
he's
This
only in the
guy-
movie for like what 10 minutes of screen time, maybe less.
Yeah, but it's like very prominent when he is in it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's him, and the voice of General Suitor when he goes into the like the swamp creature effect is that's a good old Frank Welker again doing the voice.
Oh man, is Frank Welker in every movie we've covered, or just like half of them?
At least half.
Frank Welker, what a career this man has had. Oh my gosh.
Start a new segment called like Spot Frank Welker in this movie.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get there, but the Trek Connections images that you sent me are overwhelming for this movie.
Yeah, I got.
Well, I will get there.
There's a big old overload.
When you bring it up, I'll bring up these pictures. It's great.
Cool. And then we get a little revisit from the past from a movie we've covered with Tony Longo, who played Knuckles, one of the bounty hunters.
Yep.
He was in quite a few movies around this time in the 90s, but most notably for us, he was in Prehysteria, where he played Lewis.
Yep, and he's generally just kind of a goon.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And he reprised that role of Lewis later in Remote, which
Right.
eventually we'll get to.
Yeah.
And then we've got Mark Calloway, who played Hutch, the other bounty hunter.
So
and
I'm cutting to this graphic now.
yes, and an interesting thing you found out about, I just noticed like, oh, he was like a WWF, WWE wrestler. He's got like connections with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
is what I thought.
so it's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
I don't follow wrestling, but I know who the Undertaker is.
Yeah, when you told me, I'm like, I've definitely heard that name before.
So, I love these guys. These characters are so funny to me because they're just like filthy and greasy the whole movie, and there's no clue as to why. They just are dirty and greasy the whole movie without any explanation. But so I was doing.
You go ahead. I was going to say, you go ahead.
No, Travis, please, I insist.
All right. You know who they remind me of? They remind me of the bounty hunters in Critters 2.
Yes, that is a very accurate comparison. I would go so far as to say, like, these guys are, like, modeled after those bounty hunters from Critters
they were
2.
so familiar to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's got to be it. That's got to be what I'm thinking of.
Like, mullets and all. But when I was trying to do some research about this movie today, and I just Googled Suburban Commando, one of the things that came up was The Undertaker talking about this movie on a podcast, calling it, quote, truly, truly awful. Which I think is extreme. But apparently that situation was he was trying to get into WWF at that point and had like an interview / meeting with Vince McMahon and a bunch of other WWF people not long before this movie went. And he didn't get the WWF job at the time. They basically said, like, this is interesting, we're going to keep you in mind, but I don't think we have anything for you right now. And then a few weeks later, he gets this call, I think we have a part in a movie for you with Hulk Hogan, if you're interested in that. And then that's how he wound up in Suburban Commando, pre-WWF days. So, yeah, I had no idea that there was more than one wrestler in this movie. I'm just going to cut to this graphic again, because I just think it's really funny. Just like these two dudes, these two greasy-looking, dirty dudes. It's great. All right, yeah.
I should have made a graphic of the bounty hunters from Critters.
Yeah, well, I mean, they look the same, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what else we got?
And then, I mean, there are quite a few others, but
yeah.
Last but not least, as far as this segment, is young Elizabeth Moss, who plays the little girl at the end who is trying to get a cat.
Yes. The little girl whose cat keeps getting stuck in a tree. She's probably also the same girl that gets her cat stuck in a tree in the first place. I just didn't rewind back to that scene after learning it was Elizabeth Moss. But there's like only this one shot that you took a screen grab from. That's like the only shot where you can clearly see her face.
Yeah, it was hard to get one that I'm like, yeah, that is her.
Yep.
So, because I did go back to the first scene and I'm like, is that her? But in the second one, I'm like, that one it definitely is.
Yeah. That's just so funny to me. And there's a scene where like she falls, because the gag in that scene is she gets flung from a tree in the second scene and then lands in Hulk Hogan's arms and then runs away. So I just think that's funny that that's an experience that Elizabeth Moss has had in her life, is being dropped and caught by Hulk Hogan.
She's probably not asked about that in a lot of interviews.
I think if someone alerted like Kimmel to the fact that happened and sent them the clip, it would definitely come up in the next interview. Conan, at least. Conan would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember Conan, when he had a Harrison Ford on, would show him like the clip from the holiday special where Han and Chewie arrive on Kashyyyk. And just Harrison has like just nothing to give him. Like, that was the thing.
I have, that's like on one of the Star Wars holiday special bootleg DVDs I have, that's a bonus feature, is Harrison Ford getting mad about the holiday special on Conan. It's so good.
Yeah. And then we've got some truck connections in this movie again, finally.
So many. And they escalate according to the numbering that you said.
Yes. So for the first one, we've got Christopher Lloyd.
Yes.
Who played... Oh my gosh, I didn't even take note of his...
the main bad guy in Star Trek 6.
Kruge, I think, is the name of the Klingon he played in The Search for Spock.
And he's so good. Oh, right, it's Search for Spock. That's right. Oh, Christopher Plummer's in 6. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And then Tony Epper, who his character's name in this movie is Teeth, and I don't know who Teeth is.
But he's in the movie somewhere.
Yeah, he's mostly a stunt guy, and he played a drunken Klingon in Deep Space Nine, as you can see.
There you go, yeah.
That confused-looking Klingon. And then we've got Christopher Neame, who plays Commander, which is Shep's boss, who tells him to take a break.
Yes.
He was in like License to Kill and stuff, but he was in Star Trek Voyager playing Unferth, which is the big bearded guy on the top. And then he was in Enterprise playing a German general.
Interesting.
So those are both him.
It's pretty frequent that you find an actor that did like Next Gen and Voyager, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, or combination of like the second 3 Star Trek shows. It's less often that you find somebody that did work in one and then worked on Enterprise, I think.
Well,
I'm going to be proven wrong when I cut to this next slide.
Get ready for Tom Morga, who played the mime.
Wait.
He was also he's a stunt performer.
There we go. Got it.
He's been in quite a few things. He played Jason Voorhees in some Friday the 13th movies, Leatherface, and Michael Myers in a few of the sequels.
Oh, interesting.
And he's performed as doubles for quite a few people in Star Trek history. He doubled as Spock, as you can see in the motion picture, and as well as Jonathan Frakes on Next Gen. But
and he was funny. I mean, that's a weird gag in the movie, but he was funny.
Yeah. But when I just diving deep into Tom Morga, Tom Morga is a stuntman, stunt actor, and stunt coordinator who holds the record for being the most seen stunt actor and stuntman in Star Trek.
No way.
Between 1979 and 2005, he appeared in 6 feature films and the first 4 spin-off television series, doubled main actors and guest actors, and played almost every major species. So he was in, the motion picture, he was in Star Trek 2, 3, 5, 6, Nemesis. He was in 8 episodes of The Next Generation, 35 episodes of Deep Space Nine, 9 episodes of Voyager, and 5 episodes of Enterprise.
Wow.
And so that third graphic, that's all him.
That's amazing. I did not know that. How long did it take you to pull together this graphic, Travis?
Well, luckily on Memory Alpha, he's got his own big entry in which they have all of these appearances. And believe it or not, I had to be selective. When I was pulling all the images, I'm like, I've got to cut like a good amount of these in order to like fit them all.
I love that Star Trek nerds are so dedicated that there is such an expansive page on this guy.
Yeah. I could not believe the gold mine I found.
You're like, my work has been done for me on this one.
Yeah.
That's great.
If all we had was him, I thought Christopher Lloyd was the big one, but no, this is the Star Trek guy.
So good. That's so good. The ultimate Trek connection is the guy who played the mime in this movie. Say his name again. I forgot it already.
Tom Morga.
Tom Morga. Thank you, Tom Morga, for your years of stunt service. It's apparently been well loved by many. Good job, dude.
Yeah. So with that's basically all I have on the cast for this movie.
It's an interesting mash of people. So let's talk about the movie. Right away, the very beginning it's a complete, it's I guess a spoof, but so like knockoff is extreme, but spoof of the opening of Star Wars, like a direct,
for sure,
real, just like this is like on the level that Spaceballs is, basically.
Exactly. That's why I was like, it feels like I'm watching Spaceballs right now.
Yeah, like the very beginning of it, the effects like somehow look simultaneously very cheap, but also very clean.
Mm-hmm.
I thought in that sequence, which I think was kind of on purpose. It looked like a B movie kind of effect stuff going on. I liked the way it looked, but like immediately the movie raises so many questions. Like, because we come into a space battle, right? That's the thing. Mm-hmm. We come into a space battle. Hulk Hogan as intergalactic badass Shep Ramsey is fighting a big spaceship with the evil Suitor, General Suitor, on it. And Suitor has kidnapped the president of space, or I'm not sure what he's the president of, but I'm just going to call him Space President. So Suitor's kidnapped Space President. So I have so many. The aliens are humans. The aliens appear to be humans. One of the guys, Suitor gets his hand cut off at one point, and we find out that he has a reptile hand, and that like pays off later. But everybody's just humans, and the space presidents And okay, so like
maybe people all appear to be human until you cut off their hand, and then they reveal their true form.
could be. It's so just going. So what ultimately happens in this scene, because I think it's I'll continue talking about once we describe the rest of this scene. Like Ramsey's blowing up this spaceship, trying to kill Suter. The ship is in self-destruct mode. No, he lays a bunch of charges. He blows up the ship, escapes in a very Han Solo-y style. I don't know if you caught that, but like it really, it was very evocative of blasting their way into the garbage chute and escaping the Death Star that way. The ship gets blown up, President on board, and yeah, so I was also realizing it's possible I had never seen the very beginning of this movie. All the henchmen also have long blonde ponytails, even if they don't have blonde hair. There were some of them that had like dark top head hair and then just like long blonde extensions.
Yeah, and the henchmen makeup looked like they were right out of the Knights of in Satan's Service.
They did. They did. They looked like Kiss themselves, the demons. And so Ramsey like literally was like, I don't think I can do this mission the way I was supposed to do it. So what I'm going to do is blow up the whole ship and kill Space President in service of this mission.
Kill my one, do the one thing I wasn't probably supposed to do.
Like if we're talking about Star Wars and it's Star Wars Episode 3, it's as if Anakin and Obi-Wan just gave up trying to rescue Palpatine and just blew up the ship that Grievous and Dooku were on because Grievous and Dooku were on it. Yeah. Which arguably would have been the better choice in the Star Wars universe.
They would have been saving the galaxy if they'd done that, but they wouldn't have known it.
So, like,
maybe that's what he did. Maybe
that could be
by doing that. He was a corrupt president. We never have those.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, that'd be unheard of in the future in space. But an idea that occurred to me is perhaps that this movie takes place in the Star Wars universe, and that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away has finally caught up to now and close to us. But that's neither here nor there.
This is episode 10.
This is episode, like, maybe 34. Like, there's, like, somebody that's, like, maybe has, like, 1% Skywalker DNA in this movie or something.
Disney keeps making Star Wars movies, and decades into the future, somebody's going to be like, did they just put in like Suburban Commando and not make a real movie?
They just re-released Suburban Commando in 25 years. So then his boss gets on the phone and tells him to take 6 human weeks off. He tells him to basically go as a reward for murdering Space President, and presumably the bad guy also. He's told to take a vacation for 6 weeks and just relax. And Shep does not want to do it. He's like, isn't there like another problem? Because there's no other problems to take care of. He's taken care of all the problems. And he's like, isn't there something else? Galactic narc duty? He suggests galactic narc duty as an option of something that he would rather do than vacation on Earth. He hates Earthlings. Yeah, so many questions just immediately in the first like 4 minutes of the movie. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that? Were you similarly flabbergasted on like the human element of all this space stuff?
Not really. I just kind of rode with it. But yeah, it does raise a lot of questions, but I'm just like, all right, this is just kind of a ridiculous thing we're in for.
Yeah, it is. We meet the family, they're like a regular suburban family. Christopher Lloyd has like he likes working in his garage workshop. It's nice that he has a garage workshop in this movie. But he's just like a downtrodden architect that works for this company, and Larry Miller is his boss. And I do think Larry Miller is like actually probably the funniest performance in the movie. Larry Miller as his boss, I think, is like, it's just really funny. Just this sniveling, like, it's what he does. It's like, it's just what Larry Miller does. He's just very good at it.
Yeah, like his character, I'm like, they just plucked him out of this and put him in the Nutty Professor.
Yeah, exactly. So Ramsey crashes into like a defunct roller disco.
Yeah.
And that's where he has to charge up his ship because his ship needs power. So luckily, there's still power running and the party lights are still installed at the defunct roller disco out in Whereversville that he crash lands in. And we get this super weird sequence of Ramsey just walking down the street and people gawking at him because he's, for half of it, still in his like space hero garb, which is the metal power suit that's in the... For a refresher, I'll just cut back to our intro card so you can see he's given this thumbs up. And that's his that's his space warrior outfit that enhances your muscles, we later learn. Because Christopher Lloyd becomes a superhero while wearing it briefly. People are just gawking.
For whatever reason, Shep needed it. I don't know why, based on what we saw.
Yeah. But so, like, even wearing that weird outfit and walking down the street, people are, like, gawking at him and, like, who is this guy? And start following him. And it's like, that seems like an odd reaction to have on the part of the public. We meet Christopher Lloyd's neighbors who are like, on one side he has like these like hateful redneck guys who have a bunch of drag race cars that keep blocking Christopher Lloyd's driveways, and they just like laugh at him because he's a wimp. And,
yeah, they've got like Formula One cars there.
Those are weird characters. And then there's the colonel next door who's just like a retired military dude who just hangs out in the tank that he has in his front yard. It was a tank, right? He had a tank in his front yard? Or no, am I remembering that wrong?
I think it was like an old military Jeep.
Oh, that's right. It was okay.
It was just kind of like permanently installed there.
So the family needs some money. Christopher Lloyd is supposed to ask for a raise, but he's, too timid, so he doesn't. And so Shelley Duvall renovates his little work shed, which is like his happy place, into a rentable apartment to bring in money. So, of course, Ramsey needing a place to stay, Of course
she puts him in a headlock.
Right. She does put him in a headlock to make him. She like beats his head into the ground at the end of the movie too. Like, she's very abusive of Christopher Lloyd's head in this movie. So yeah, Shep Ramsey moves in with this family because that's the movie and he must. And first thing they do is, I guess, invite him over for dinner. Because I guess that's what you do when someone moves into your shed. And,
you do that.
And you take a picture with them as if it's like...
Exactly.
to document the occasion, like this new family member. It's weird.
Yeah, like the questions you had about like the space human at the beginning. Like, this is what I had during that dinner scene where I'm like, this isn't how people act.
Right.
That's what we do.
And then, like, his entrance into the scene is, like, he's, it's a classic, like, Hulk strength moment. He's just, like, holding up the two kids, like, by their collars and just goes, these yours?
Yeah.
That moment's actually I like that moment. That's funny.
And then when he puts them down and the kids are all excited, like, can we do that again? I can guarantee you if that happened with our kids, like, that's exactly what they would say. So
Yeah.
that moment rang very true.
It's a fun ride. That'd be great. So, after dinner, Christopher Lloyd gets curious about Ramsey and kind of like spies on him through his window and sees him working with a lot of weaponry, the weaponry he has with him. And then when Ramsey sneaks out, Charlie sneaks in and fires the space weapon because he must. And the bad guys in space pick up on the energy signal. So now we have intergalactic space goons the bounty hunters that we showed you earlier. So I do like that this also continues on our theme of movies with goons. Yeah.
For sure. And all of a sudden we have the same goon.
Yeah, that's the same goon we've seen like 2 movies ago. And we get this like stranger in a strange land sequence where Ramsey thinks like everything is a threat. So like he hears Shelley Duvall screaming for therapy and like thinks she's under attack and, hardy har har.
But to be fair, the way she was screaming,
was like
I think any normal person would have been like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I mean, she sounded like she was screaming in The Shining. She was probably like remembering how Stanley Kubrick treated her in The Shining,
yes,
and just like channeling that into her scream.
One of the when I was looking at Shelley Duvall's like trivia on IMDb today, like one of the things listed was like she played chess with Stanley Kubrick like on the set of The Shining, and I'm like, that you're making that set seem a whole lot more pleasant than it really was for her.
Yeah,
from what I've heard.
Like my reaction to that would be like, because he made her.
Yeah.
Because he demanded.
Yeah. But yeah, his whole like a lot of this movie, as Sarah pointed out, feels like Thor, like the first Thor, where you've got this super macho, blonde, like strong alien who comes to Earth in a fish out of water story. That's
yeah.
I think it's kind of similar.
Yeah,
in that regard.
you're not wrong at all. There is a lot there that's similar. Also, it's around this time that I just noticed that part of Shep Ramsey's hair is he has like a stupid little side braid like Padawans.
Yeah.
So there's that.
It's more connections to the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, dude, I think this might be a Star Wars movie.
We should
Suburban
put it in
Commando.
Wikipedia.
Anyone can edit the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
If there's a what is it? Taller Luke?
Yes.
Bigger
yeah,
Luke.
we talked about this.
Bigger Luke. Yes, this is a Bigger Luke-esque theory that Suburban Commando is a Star Wars film. There's this is one of the lines I remember really specifically from being a kid. So like Christopher Lloyd comes home from work again. He's downtrodden and sad, and the drag racing morons next door have blocked his driveway again. And Shep is like talking to the colonel next door, so there's just like, the muscle-bound space warrior talking to the old army man and, exchanging war stories. And then Charlie comes home, can't pull in his driveway because the cars are blocking it, and he's trying to like figure out how to drive over them or between them. And then Shep just comes over and moves it because he can do that. Just like picks it up and like pushes it back a few feet so Charlie can pull in. Then of course these guys next door get really pissed. They come over and like they're they got like motor oil and grease all over. They're like sweaty and like really gross looking. And Shep's like, yeah, I'll beat these guys up. That'll be easy. And then the response is that what you think? This is the 90s. We're gonna sue ya. And yeah, that for some reason, like the idea of suing people is very indelible in my childhood memory as just like a thing that you could do. Like, oh, you didn't like what somebody did, just sue them. It's obviously the answer.
Yeah, that's when the hot coffee at McDonald's happened.
Yeah, exactly. But that coffee was absurdly hot. That was dangerous. I don't know if you've actually read the facts of that story, but that coffee was served absurdly hot.
Oh no, I've not done.
Oh yeah,
research.
That woman had like 3rd-degree burns, like actual 3rd-degree burns. It was very bad.
Ooh.
It's easily reduced to a joke, and I understand why it has been, but it was actually like really gross. So and then really soon after that, there's this car that speeds around the neighborhood, just like this drag racing idiot guy in a souped up muscle car, and the car comes speeding through the neighborhood, and Shep has to rescue the little boy from being hit by the car. The little boy is on a skateboard. Car almost just like straight up runs him over. Like the kid's in the middle of the street, doesn't hear a car coming and doesn't move. So like the kid's an idiot too. But the car is trying to go like 70 right into this kid and like obliterates his skateboard that it actually runs over after Shep has rescued him. And it's like, also, was the car just really actively trying to murder a kid? Is that
maybe?
Because that's what it seemed like. But
there's a whole subplot going on with the kid and the driver of this car that we don't know.
There's got to be. It's got to be a whole different movie. But
He's Bart to the driver's sideshow Bob.
Yes. But then the scene of Shep like attacking that car is like pretty funny. Actually, he like flips it over and yanks the people out, and I think Charlie has to stop him from like actually murdering the driver. I think like if Charlie hadn't showed up, there would have actually been a murder that happened in this movie. And they give Shep a chocolate cake to thank him for all the things, and he's very confused by chocolate cake.
Yeah, and that's when they take the picture. It's the chocolate
Oh,
cake.
that's right. It was the chocolate cake occasion. That's right. Because then they were integrating him into the family. So Shep goes back to check on his ship and does some do-gooding on the way. Like, saves a woman from being robbed or something. And Charlie's following him. And oh, yeah, that's the first time he comes across the very normal nighttime mime. Because, like you do, you just see a mime when you're out and about. Travis, are you still there? You have frozen. Oh, boy. We've lost Travis. It's the Alex show now. Oh, boy. Well, that's a shame. Okay, hopefully we can get Travis back. But, so welcome to Alex Brunel, just talking about Suburban Commando for a minute. So we get this scene of like Shep just runs into this mime on the street at nighttime, which is a very reasonable thing to have happen. I guess there's just frequently mimes out and about at nighttime in the world of this movie, and Shep takes it as you can probably hear that noise coming out of my computer. That's me trying to call Travis back. I think we got him. I think we got Travis.
You've got my audio at least.
Okay. That's better, because talking by myself about Suburban Commando and trying to get you back on the video is a little bit much.
Yeah.
I wish I had just a still graphic of your
I don't know
face.
what happened. Well, hold on. Here, I can fix this. Here.
There you are.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know what happened to my internet, but I'm going off of my phone's hotspot right now.
Oh, boy. Travis is in a new house right now, so that could be very well related.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about the very normal night mime that they run into. Who we discussed earlier. And Shep feels like he's helping him by punching him in the face to help him escape the invisible force field that he's trapped inside of. Shep really does the mime a favor.
He does. He's trying to help him the whole time.
It's such a weird little recurring joke. So Shep gets to his ship and tells him it's stuck there. And Charlie, who doesn't have the balls to do anything, still just keeps following him, and then gets inside the ship after Shep leaves. And Shep then wanders into an arcade somehow. He's attracted by the sounds of things blowing up and seemingly like a space battle. And there's a kid playing a video game that he doesn't think he can win. That's like just a shoot 'em up, like airplane thing. And Shep gets like really into it, and then plays the video game so hard that it overheats and surrenders with a white flag.
Yeah. That's what video games do when you've taken them to the limit.
Right. They just like literally surrender with a white flag. And the whole arcade cheers. And then after that, there's a reprisal.
Yeah, get a hero's welcome.
Yeah. After that scene immediately following, there's a reprisal of the mime gag. It's like a daytime one. It's now the second iteration of the mime gag, and what does he do that time? He like throws him across the street.
He tosses him up because he's trying to climb
he's
a
doing
ladder.
the pole.
So
the ladder.
Like, yeah.
And he tosses him up onto the ledge of
Let
whatever
me
building
get you
he's
up
in
there.
front of.
A quick thing. This was not in my cast list because I could not confirm. I don't know what the name. Like, so many characters in this movie are actually named.
Yeah, they are.
Like, there's a kid named Eric, and I believe the kid playing the arcade game, I believe that was Eric, or it could have been one of the skateboard kids. I do not know. All I know is whoever played Eric, his name is Malachi Pearson, and he was a Casper in the live action Casper movie.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but I didn't know who Eric was, so I don't know who to
say that was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because when I look at his IMDb, it's a picture of the Casper animation. So I'm like, how do I narrow this down?
What genius
So,
at IMDb did that?
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, good. Oh, the chat is so lively that I've been missing out on Facebook. Aw, nice ladies in our lives. So, let's see, what else here? It's also possible that Eric was maybe one of the little skateboard kid jerks. So the skateboard jerk kids. So, Charlie has broken into Shep's spaceship and has found the power suit and has put it on. And coincidentally with that scene, he's in the the defunct roller disco, and this is, I think, the weirdest scene in the movie. These two guys show up with a woman that they've basically taken captive, and it really seems like it's an attempted rape scene. It's like an attempted rape that Christopher Lloyd stops because now he's super strong and, like, bulletproof.
Yeah. And that woman is credited as Lady, aka Hooker.
What?
Yeah. She's credited as girl.
AKA
in parentheses,
Hooker.
AKA Hooker.
Wow. So, Family Entertainment.
That's in the end credit. Yeah.
Family Entertainment from 1991, y'all. It has a hooker in it, by definition, I guess. But that's... I just didn't understand. This is like one of those things where it's like, here's a movie very obviously written by men who, like, just don't have a conception that's like, why would you need to include that thing? Anyway. But Charlie suited up.
Could have just credited her as girl.
Could have just credited her as girl. Could have been like a different scenario that he stops, because, like, I don't know, just like, I don't know what the other scenario would have been. Just like an attempted rape scene in a family film is like friggin' weird. Yeah. But he does put a stop to it, so that's a good thing. We're reminded by cutting to space that the goons are on their way. The space juggalos. Space juggalos is what Angela called
Yeah.
those guys on the ship in face paint. That's great. I forgot the space juggalos.
I have it noted in here that Christopher Lloyd, his character, he pulls on Shep what Biff Tannen pulled on him in Back to the Future Part 2.
That is true.
Sneaks in and steals his tech.
That is true. Good point. Yes. Oh man, the connections. There's a gag earlier where Shep throws a skateboard into the sky, and apparently it makes it all the way into space because it crosses paths with the bounty hunter's spaceship in space. So Shep wants some peace and quiet in this one scene. He's going through his stuff. So he literally screams for it. He screams for quiet at the top of his lungs, and basically everything goes quiet. And then he yells at a cricket, which also goes quiet. And then he hears a little girl crying somewhere far away, because I guess he has super hearing, maybe, and goes to find who we figured out as Elizabeth Moss. She has her cat stuck in a tree, and he tries to get it down, just like flings a cat across the block when he pulls down the branch and just lets it go when it's not her cat.
Which I have that in here as like more humor directed against cats.
Yeah, why? What is it, Hollywood?
Yeah, he does that to the cat. And earlier in the film, he rescues the dog from the hot car.
He does. Yeah. This pro-dog, anti-cat attitude in Hollywood, I'm not for it. I'm anti that attitude. Cats are... You can see one of my cat's feet in the webcast, right? Right there. How do you do it? Right there. Foot. Anyway. Oh, yeah. So... that leads, so that with the cat fleeing, that leads to yet another Stranger in a Strange Land sequence, complete with like a third iteration of the mime gag. I think I think the mime happens 3 times in the movie. So Charlie
because I don't think he's at the end. So
right. So Shep has discovered that Charlie took his crap and he's mad. So he goes to visit Charlie at work. Charlie continues to get just crapped on by his boss. And Shep executes like a classic take a seat gag. He comes in to the office building like very mad, and that's what he meets the secretary that we talked about earlier, who's just great. Like, he comes in, he's like almost 7 friggin' feet tall, he's mad, and he wants to get in that room, and she's just like, no, you're not doing that. She does not back down from this confrontation. Like, she doesn't let him intimidate her at all. It's great. I thought that was
and
like...
then when he leaves,
she draws a gun
she
on
like
him.
mutters. Well, no, and then she like has this like muttering thing where she goes like, oh, that was a big one. Which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, I really like the scene. But the take a seat gag is she demands that he take a seat. So he literally walks off camera somewhere and comes back with a big like couch that he's just carrying. He's like, okay, where? Classic take a seat gag. So Shep breaks it down for Charlie. The intergalactic bounty hunters are on their way because Charlie is playing with the intergalactic toys. So they use so there's a weapon that's missing. The bad guys got away with it. The rapists that the would-be rapists that Charlie stopped. So they use a homing device, which you may recognize is a PKE meter from Ghostbusters.
That's exactly what I have in the notes. I'm like, why did they steal this from Egon and Ghostbusters?
Like, was it this? I don't know if I should have looked it up. I don't know if it was an existing
I should have
object.
made a visual note of this too.
I don't know if that was
Yeah,
an
I don't
existing
know.
object or if it was literally like rented from the prop house or something. But like, it's just a PKE meter. It's exactly the same object. But it's the space freezy gun homing device in this movie. The rapists have been using it to go on a crime spree. The gun is a freeze ray. It freezes humans, and they're using it to rob a bank. So they go to this bank. They've tracked it to this bank, and Christmas music plays. I guess just because everyone is frozen. That was a weird music cue, but it's and then so like they stop the guys. One of them thinks they have Shep cornered, shoots him directly with like the icy blast, and as soon as like the smoke, the mist clears, Shep is just like drinking something out of a bottle and just goes antifreeze, and then attacks him because he's just chugged antifreeze and can't be stopped by the freeze gun. And then Christopher
That's
Lloyd
what you can do.
And Christopher Lloyd, I have to say, does a great job of acting Frozen, and the couple scenes that follow.
He does.
He is very stiff.
I noted the freeze acting in this scene was so much better than those kids in Pet Shop.
So much better. They should have watched this film before they made Pet Shop for some tips on how they should look.
Yeah. Also, I thought it was like, this is the funniest scene in the movie to me, because when he's fighting and beating up the bad guys and tossing them into desks and whatnot, and they're playing the heroic theme, they keep cutting all these reaction shots to the frozen people. Like, what? Like, what are they supposed? They can't react. They're just like, why?
Yeah.
And I even thought, like, when they were like cutting to this, when these people were being shot, would they even have had any idea what they were supposed to be reacting to, or was this just a bunch of footage that they shot and decided to edit it?
They just thought the scene was like a little limp, so they just like kept cutting in cutaways to the frozen people. I do like that scene a lot. It's really funny, and it's like it's a classic like Frozen looking thing where it's just like this silly kind of like white peppery makeup, and yeah, it's good. It's a good scene. And just antifreeze makes me laugh. So Shep continues to break down the bounty hunter issue. One of my favorite lines in the movie is 10 minutes of listening to your ice cream trucks and they'll level this town. Just like, that's the level of intolerance that aliens have for Earth things.
Yeah.
The next thing
we find that out when the bounty hunters are trying to order fast food for some reason.
Right. In the immediate next scene, they have stolen a convertible that is a just married car, and they're pulling in at Surfin' Burger, which they kind of just destroy the drive-through menu of and drive away. They accomplished nothing by being
Yeah,
there.
why they're there, I don't even understand. Like, did they know they were going there to order food?
Yeah.
Was there some kind of pretense that they thought they were doing? What?
Yeah, do not know. But just to remind us of where they were contemplating a burger, perhaps, but ultimately decided against. So their Shep is trying to work on a ship. A thing blows up. Oh no! And then there's this actually like, there's this scene where like Shep is trying to convince Charlie to help him out and like suit up and like take on the bad guys with him, and Shep really doesn't want to. And it's actually, I think, is a pretty funny scene between Hulk Hogan and Christopher Lloyd. And Christopher Lloyd has some great line deliveries. I was frozen today. And then of course like
also, I was gonna say the makeup job on Christopher Lloyd as well.
Yeah.
Once he was thawed, like he was just like covered in what looked like goo or perspiration for
Yeah.
the rest of that scene.
Yeah, he's very wet looking the whole scene. And then, but conveniently, what Shep needs to fix his ship is these like crystal trophies that Charlie's boss has that are made out of, I can't remember what, some kind of element that didn't sound real that I didn't note the name of.
50 pounds of them they needed.
50 pounds of them. So there were 5 of those awards. So
Yeah.
each one of those was 10 pounds, and they all fit in and did not tear a garbage bag.
Exactly. I have that in the notes. I'm like 50 pounds of crystals. Trash bag does the trick, apparently.
That is a top of the line trash liner, Travis. I think they don't make them anymore. So they go to this. So there's a party at the office building because they're trying to, like, Charlie's company is trying to close this deal with these Japanese investors, and the party is huge. They fill up the entire lobby and also the roof. Lobby seems like a weird place to have the party, but like whatever. I don't know, corporate parties. Hulk Hogan in a suit. I guess they like got a suit in the Hulkster's size in like the 5 minutes they had to prepare for this. That's interesting. Did he have a suit? And no, he couldn't have had one because he stole the clothes from the dog guy earlier in the movie.
He did, yeah. The whole sequence here with the party and everything, it felt Nakatomi Plaza and Die Hard esque to me.
Yeah. I think it was. It has to be purposely trying to do that, right? Like just to evoke
because
something.
they even have the Japanese business partners there. And
and the unfinished floor that we get to hang out on and all this stuff. So, the secretary wields a gun at them while they're trying to take the crystals. Like, and I was confused about what she was doing at that point. Is like she just like standing up for the integrity of the company, or for like Larry Miller's character, or like why does she care that they're stealing the crystals? But enough to draw a gun on him. I don't know. The goon being covered in Post-it notes after crashing through the supply wall closet is pretty funny. There's so many absurd one-liners in this movie.
And they kept trying to like make Hulk Hogan sound like Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and it did not
is
land.
What I think they were trying to do.
Like Hogan actually does a pretty decent job of like doing what he's supposed to do in the movie, performance-wise, but just like the one-liners are so dumb. Like, putting a guy through the wall and go talk about cheap construction. Like, okay.
Yep.
So then there's one of the weirdest jokes in the movie, which is after he eliminates Tony Longo and just the Undertaker is left of the goons. That goon speaks, and he has the voice of a child, and that's why they just generally don't speak. That's just a weird joke. Out of nowhere, just, the big guys have little voices, and just, like, that joke unprompted is, like, it's funny and weird. I don't know.
It's because if you take their human skin off, there's some kind of other alien underneath.
It's got to be it, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, Larry Miller is trying to stall. Like, Christopher Lloyd's supposed to be getting the
well,
plans.
just like those. Oh, I was gonna say, just like those bounty hunters and critters too could take like human form.
Do critters in Star Wars take place in the same universe?
Maybe.
Oh man, I wonder what does. We should really investigate this issue. Larry Miller. So Larry Miller's character, the boss, is trying to stall. Christopher Lloyd's trying to get he thinks Christopher Lloyd's coming back with plans to present the actual project to the investors, and because Larry Miller's character doesn't know anything, so they kind of demand he starts presenting, and he's like, he goes on about it has floors and walls, and those are very important. It sounds like a Trump speech, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Well, we have to start with the foundation, and that's floors. And going along with floors, there's ceilings, and you better believe on all four sides there's walls. You know, it's like that.
Yep.
I really like that. So Shep is gonna leave Earth so he doesn't endanger the family, but Charlie wants him to stay. And then Shep basically orders Charlie to go back to his room at the house to just check to make sure he didn't leave behind any weapons.
I mean, it's very valid. Like,
Sure,
I might have
but,
forgotten
like,
something. Go make sure.
It's like that room was like a 7x7 space. I mean, like, sure, it struck me. So now Suitor is discovered to be alive. He has broken into the house and he kidnaps the family. And the movie gets a little extreme. It really seems like he's going to shoot a child in the head at the beginning of like the final confrontation. That's pretty dark. You know, holding a gun to a kid's head in a children's film is pretty dark.
I guess.
Isn't it? Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Here's where I actually noted. This is actually where I thought of the Star Wars thing in the day. Suitor is maybe what eventually becomes of the Galactic Republic, or the Galactic Empire. Like, eventually. Like, you know, First Order gives way to, like, just whatever the hell Suitor is trying to do in generations to follow.
Even his costume, I noted at first when they first introduced him, like, his robes are very much just like Emperor Palpatine's.
Yeah, they got, like, the kind of just decorative thing, like, just below the shoulders here, under the collarbone, and, like, yeah. It is very similar. Then the ending is this kind of anticlimactic fight scene, although we do get the really cool true form of Suitor in that Creature from the Black Lagoon thing. Really excellent creature effect, and then he gets electrocuted to a disco beat. So, you know, that's pretty great too. The building, to truly defeat Suitor, they blow up the building because we must. We must blow up the building. The movie must end with the building blowing up because it must. Shelley Duvall just relieved that Christopher Lloyd is still alive and, like, beating him against the ground. If you ever do anything like that again, I'll kill you. I like that. Shep asks for... Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't even realize that, but I guess this is the payoff of the ice cream comment earlier, is he actually goes up to an ice cream man and goes, "Hey, dude, how about a bomb pop?" And then the ice cream truck driver gets scared away. Just leaves. Oh, here's a note I made. I noticed in the scene where he can now skateboard that he was wearing Chucks. And I looked up on that website, chucksconnection.com, which indexed Prehysteria and Adventures in Dinosaur City to see if it had an entry about this movie. Yeah. And it does not. I was surprised to find.
You're going to have to make one. Is it like Wikipedia?
No, I have to, like, get this guy to edit the HTML on his very outdated webpage, which he does because there is an entry for Straight Outta Compton on this website. So, like, he obviously, in the last 5 years at least, has kept it up a bit. What else here? A skateboard kid actually says "Cowabunga, dude." We get to see Elizabeth Moss's face.
Yeah. I was going to say Ninja Turtles were very in at the time.
Yeah. Shep leaves back into space. He leaves back into space, and Margie, the secretary, goes with him. He takes the bounty hunter ship and goes back off into space. My favorite character in the movie probably is Margie, who stands up to the Hulkster first thing, and then is like, "Oh, I'm into this man," and then goes with him to space, leaves her life,
and
goes
earn his respect.
Yes, right, exactly. A romance for the ages, if there ever was one. And yeah, Charlie has more control over his life, and he totally screws up traffic by shooting out a traffic light with a space gun. I have to imagine that'll cause problems going forward. But like, there has to be a reason that traffic light was there. You can't just blow up a traffic light.
It's weird.
That's going to be problematic.
I noted that this film had like multiple endings, or scenes where you thought it was going to end, but no, it kept going.
It did.
Like the first time that like Shep is out and he gives the kid the skateboard and he does the Elizabeth Moss cat thing, I'm like, oh, and this is the end of the movie. And then no, we see him take off, and them like give him the goodbye. I'm like, no, okay, this is the end. And then they cut to Christopher Lloyd in the car, and I'm like, oh,
yeah. So we get, I think that's
this one's the real end,
right? And I think that car scene, did that follow a rule of threes? Were there 3 instances of the car traffic sequence, or were there 4? Okay,
there
were
was
3
at least.
So this movie is actually very good about the threes rule. Like, there's 3 instances of the mime. There's, like, it follows the rule of threes in a fairly textbook way that I appreciate, because I like that kind of thing. But like, when that car scene first happened, I'm just like, this is an unnecessary scene. And the second time it happened, I was like, okay, I guess it's just showing us like how weak Charlie is in his life, and that's fair to illustrate, but it just feels like a thing that's happening that's not plot. And then they make that the ending of the movie, like the actual ending of the movie, which is the only way to, like, I guess, I mean, his character's pretty well paid off when he like flat out quits the company. I didn't feel like we needed that extra tag, but like, whatever. I'm not Frank A. Capello. What do I know? So it's a fun movie, man. It's like, it's not a great movie. It's totally just a thing. I'm not gonna say like you must watch this to complete your education of early 90s family entertainment, but there's certainly worse ways to spend 90 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, I greatly enjoyed it.
Good, I'm
nice
glad.
Little hole in my Hulk Hogan and Christopher Lloyd filmography.
I actually find like Hulk Hogan fairly charming in the movie. He doesn't feel like he's trying too hard to do a thing he's not good at, which I think is largely due to the fact that like pro wrestlers have to have a lot of theatrical ability anyway, like just showmanship and that kind of thing. So I think it's not as huge of a leap to transition from wrestling to acting as like it might seem on the surface.
Oh yeah. I was actually surprised at, while very entertaining, I thought his acting wasn't that great in the movie. And it surprised me considering, like you said, what his profession was, which is essentially acting.
Right, yeah.
Just on a big stage in a very bombastic way.
Right. Yeah, he's not good at small in this movie. But I do think that, like, a lot of the times where he tries to be funny, I think he lands a lot of the joke elements of the comedy part of his performance. Not the one-liners. I don't think he lands those. But, like, other physical comedy parts and just, like, kind of doofy parts. I don't know. I enjoyed his performance in the movie, and I just always love seeing Shelley Duvall. There's, like, a really weird scene where she tries to seduce Christopher Lloyd. She's wearing, like, this corset and, like, a curly wig, and, like, to try to help him de-stress, she, like, tries to seduce him, and he turns her down to go work in the shed, and that's when he finds out it's been converted. Yeah, I mean, like, I just miss seeing Shelley Duvall around. Scene. Yeah, it doesn't come back, doesn't pay off. There's not really like an arc that happens within the family. It's just like Charlie's arc, and then the family is also there. It's, you know, like, it's not like an arc like Zelensky in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, really, where he like comes together with his family finally at the end. But yeah, I mean, It's a weird little time capsule of a thing, Suburban Commando.
Yeah, well, I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I don't. Do we have Three Ninjas on our list at some point? Because no, we don't.
Oh, you know what? I need to add that.
Do we?
But I know. Well, you mentioned the possibility of
being able to interview a cast member.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. I should talk to DJ and see if he'd even be interested in doing that.
Yeah, because I know Hogan eventually ends up in the Three Ninjas franchise.
Yeah, I think it's the fourth one, High Noon at Mega Mountain. Or is it
that's three.
It's three.
Is it three? I don't know.
I thought there was Three Ninjas.
It's hard to tell because. You're right. It is 4.
It is, right? Because it's it's Three Ninjas, Kickback, Knuckle Up, and then High Noon at Mega Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I've never seen.
Also, same. I've seen all of them except High Noon at Mega Mountain because I think it's different kids, and I think even when I was young, I was like, "Oh, I'm not watching this. It's different kids." Also, it was 1998, so that was like, and Hulk Hogan has short hair, so that's like past the time.
Yeah, it doesn't look like him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell which ones, because Three Ninjas, the 3 is numerical in the title.
Right.
So they don't give you any other numbers.
Right.
In the rest of it.
I guess Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain was Victor Wong's final film before he died. Oh, what a swan song. But he's apparently the only actor that's in all 4 Three Ninjas films. Bless Victor Wong. Who people may remember from, Big Trouble in Little China and The Last Emperor and like a million things. He's great. So good. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have anything else. Did Sarah like the movie?
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
cool.
No, we both enjoyed it.
Angela and I had a really good time watching it. We laughed more than we anticipated laughing. And it was to be credit where credit's due. It was her that raised the question: why are these guys dirty all the time about the bounty hunters? We don't see them get dirty, and they never make an attempt to get clean. They're just dirty.
Why would they?
I guess. If they're only
when you have those actors playing them,
right? Maybe they don't smell. Not that they don't have a scent. I think they would have a scent, but maybe they, as beings, do not have an olfactory sensation. So perhaps there is no drive to become clean because they can't smell it.
Yeah, maybe.
Should ask.
Maybe also Tony Longo, they could never get him to look clean because he was always sweaty. Because I've noticed in both movies, he's always just like glistening with either sweat or a dirt of some kind. Because that was a character point in Prehysteria, is he was so hot and sweaty.
That is true. So that must be a Tony Longo trait. I wonder if we could get him on the podcast to talk to him about being a goon in the early 90s. Oh, did he pass?
Yeah, he passed away 5 years ago.
Oh, bummer. Otherwise, I feel like we could have gotten Tony Longo on this podcast.
Oh, yes. I think so. I found his YouTube page. His YouTube channel.
Oh, no. What weird things we leave behind when we die now.
I know.
Facebook pages, YouTube
yeah, that's
channel.
Suburban Commando.
Suburban Commando. So that was where I went for this week. Where are you going for next week, Travis?
Mm-hmm. So next week is a movie I just added to the list today. It's a movie for the past few weeks, maybe even months, I've been kind of like called to revisit for particular reasons, and that is Blank Check.
Great. Awesome. I love Blank Check.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting
I remember
to pick
loving
apart
it,
in this
so
way.
we'll see.
I have seen it as an adult.
Is this another Pet Shop situation?
It's far more enjoyable than Pet Shop, because I've seen this. Like, I basically count, like, when I say as an adult, I basically mean since I've lived in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, like, within the last 10 years, I have seen Blank Check, and Blank Check is interesting because the screenwriter is the guy who wrote that book Save the Cat.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that's like a screenwriter's. That's like many people consider that to be like a really great like intro book about a lot of screenwriting fundamentals. And it is. Mm-hmm. It's a great book. But he didn't have like that many produced screenplays. I think he was like a script doctor a lot, but there weren't that many things that were just like written by, I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, and he's passed now, I think. But there aren't a lot of movies that are just like written by this guy.
Passed as well.
Yeah. And just
Blake Snyder.
Blake Snyder, thank you. So just if funny being Blank Check being a movie written by like the guy who like knows really well the building blocks of a good screenplay. So it'll be really interesting to make notes on the movie through that kind of lens. The movie has a really tight structure and is really well paced, but also includes like really weird stuff, like a prepubescent girl hitting on an adult lady, and that lady kind of reciprocating, and $1 million buys really a lot of things in 1994, and yeah, so that'll be fun to check out Blank Check for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You are a little bit frozen again. I can hear you, but you looked like you maybe just had a little bit of the reefer in your frozen image right now. Ah, there, you moved again.
I am. Yeah. Yeah,
well,
that's what happens because I'm still connected to my phone.
Yeah,
I can switch to my Wi-Fi, which is probably okay at this point, but I did not want to risk it.
Yeah, I think we're about to say goodbye anyway, right?
Yeah, I think so. Right. I think with all that being said, Blank Check is available on Disney Plus, so it's a very accessible film.
Perfect.
And yeah, so in the meantime, Alex, where can people find more of you?
People can find more of me on Twitter and Facebook. No, don't find me on Facebook. Twitter and Instagram at Alex Brunel. I'm still digitizing videotapes to benefit Black Lives Matter and related charities and funds and these things, so get in touch with me if you'd like any of that done. And what about you and this show, Travis?
The show you can find on Facebook, where we stream every week, as well as on YouTube and Twitch. You can find us on Twitter at Who Watches Pod, Instagram, and you can subscribe to the audio portion of the show in a podcast form, and that's on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the places you get your podcasts. So please subscribe and leave us reviews. We appreciate it.
We do. And I want to give just a really quick special shout out to the ladies in our lives who like are always watching and are super supportive, and they're awesome. I love her.
Yes,
I love my lady, and Sarah's really great too. So thanks, ladies. All right. So till next week. See y'all.
Yes, until next week, write that blank check and stay sane, stay safe, and stay smiling.